The best way to protect your investment is proper maintenance. Like a bicycle, it's got moving parts and they require greasing, routine cleaning, and you just need to look visually at things to make sure that they're in proper working order. To do the maintenance on your Propel, you're going to need a few items. You need some grease, a long nose grease gun, 3/16 Allen wrench, a 4mm Allen wrench, and a spanner wrench. Main aspect of maintenance that you should be performing every time you're out on the water is a thorough rinsing with fresh water. We recommend using fresh water from a garden hose and just softly rinse off the components of the Propel. We do not recommend using a high pressure apparatus to clean any parts of the Propel. Using a high pressure device can force water into some of the more exposed bearings and cause premature wear. Another part that you're going to want to check every time you're out on the water is to make sure that your caps are tight. There shouldn't be any gap between the silver aluminum cap here and the black part of the casting. If you do have one that is showing a gap like the one that I have here, you're going to want to take your spanner wrench and just make sure that is tight against the frame. The other area that you should check for proper sealing is in the lower unit. Make sure that this lower cartridge is properly sealed and flush against the black aluminum casting. If you do have a small gap there, you'll need to remove the propeller and use the spanner wrench to tighten that back up. So checking the covers to make sure they're sealed and cleaning your Propel is something that you should do every time you're out on the water. But occasionally you're going to have to get in and lubricate the gears. To lubricate the upper gear set, you're going to need the long nose grease gun. If you don't have one of these, you can purchase one from your native Watercraft dealer. And then you're going to need a 3/16 Allen wrench to remove the grease screw. So you can go ahead and remove the grease screw on the left side cap. And then from there, this long nose will reach in and you should be able to feel it as it hits the gear set inside. Just go ahead and give it 3 to 4 pumps is usually enough. And I like to go ahead, spin it around a couple of times, and then just give it another couple of pumps just to make sure things have been dispersed. Then you can run the propeller backwards and forwards just to make sure the grease is all moving properly. And then go ahead and replace the grease screw and make sure that it's tightened up. After you've greased the upper gear set, you can go ahead and grease the lower gear set. Both with the upper and lower, you're going to want to make sure you're in a clean environment. This isn't something you're going to want to do on the beach. The first step to greasing the lower unit is removing the propeller. Next, you can use your spanner wrench and turning counterclockwise, you can remove the propeller cartridge from the housing. There's an O-ring that seals it. Once you get past that, it should thread out by hand very easily. When you remove the cartridge, you'll have access to the propeller gear, and you can also see down into the housing to see the other gear. You can go ahead and make a few pumps onto this gear. I like to just rotate it as I do to make sure I get the grease dispersed around the whole gear. And then with a long nose grease gun, you can see down onto the inside, I just like to put a few pumps. I usually put about 2 pumps, then rotate halfway and apply another couple of pumps just to make sure I'm lubricated all the way around. After you grease those 2 parts, you can go ahead and put the cartridge back into the housing, and it should thread in easily by hand. As the gears start to interact with each other, you want to make sure that there isn't any binding between the gears themselves. They should thread together very easily. If you do feel any binding of the gears, you can turn the gear to make sure that they fit together smoothly. It should thread in very easily. You'll probably see some rotating on the cranks, and that also lets you know that you have a proper fit between the gears. Once you contact that O-ring, you can go ahead and use the spanner wrench to tighten it up. You should feel it bottom out with the casting. At that point, you can just make sure it's tight, and then go ahead and put the propeller back on. You'll feel the propeller lock into place onto the shear pin, and again you can tighten this bolt until you feel some resistance, and then go just over half a turn, and that will be tight enough to keep your propeller on. And now you have greased both the upper and the lower gear set, and that'll keep your unit running and protect your investment.